what this tweet says is something in a different language I have been saying for last 3 years. That yes, that you have gone with the Japanese. You should have known that they would be expensive. You should have been prepared for that. You were not, and then you abandoned them. You should have negotiated with the goodwill of the prime minister. You should have negotiated a better price. I'm not saying that you should have taken at that exorbitant price, but apparently you failed to do that. We could not negotiate. Now, what happened with between the Japanese and Indian delegation is something I don't know. But I'm sure there were promises kept from this side were not kept and so on, and that's why this frustration. Compromising safety would be too strong to say. It will make it harder, and it will make so much more work to make sure that whichever trains we get, and with the signaling system, and largely in civil infrastructure and OHE Japanese technology, all these are integrated well. It's not an ideal beginning. This is what I would say.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. A former Japanese minister has blamed an Indian minister and officials over an alleged delay in the ambitious Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train project. Former Japanese Justice Minister Hideki Makihara on July 15th accused them of sheer recklessness, alleging that officials repeatedly failed to honor commitments and pursued self interest during negotiations on the Shinkansen project. Makihara's claims came after an opinion piece in Japanese news outlet said that the project had diverged from the original Shinkansen model. Now, I'm going to show you Mr. Makihara's tweet, what exactly he has said, and I want to show that tweet in toto so that we can read and understand what he has said and what kind of an embarrassment is it for India and Prime Minister Modi. Now, look at what this minister, rather the ex-minister, has written. He says the Shinkansen project in India is something I was involved with myself, but what stood out in international meetings and negotiations was the sheer recklessness of the Indian side, repeated over and over again. They just don't keep promises no matter what. Even if they make a promise, they flip it right away. They keep pushing their own self interest right up to the very end. The minister in charge was specially awful. If the top guys like that, then there's no way to have any decent dealings. For the honor of all the Japanese folks who poured their hearts into this, I have to say it. I feel 100% that the reason this hasn't moved forward is entirely on the Indian side. No results from Prime Minister Takaichi's visit either. India Shinkansen failure, Japan excluded from the signal system, the key to safety. So if you try and read between the lines as to what Mr. Makihara has said, he's feeling, in fact, infuriated that the commitments were made with Japan for a safe signal technology, but now India has diverged and India has opted for a European signaling system. That's what the tweet actually very clearly says. Now, the first section, if I'm just trying to give you a little perspective so that the viewers can understand, the first section of India's inaugural high-speed rail corridor, the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail corridor, is expected to begin phased passenger operations on August 15, 2027. Now, the Mumbai-Ahmedabad corridor uses Japanese Shinkansen technology and is partially funded by the Japanese government's Japan International Cooperation Agency, which is called JICA, JICA. Now, Makihara has also posted his comments in response to an opinion piece. Rather, this post by Mr. Makihara has originated from an opinion piece which came out on a Tokyo-based business news portal by Isao Sujimura. He's a senior Japanese railway engineer and Delhi-based metro vehicle consultant, and he wrote and argued that India's first bullet train project has significantly diverged from the original Japanese Shinkansen model. Sujimura has also alleged in that opinion piece that Indian officials privately knew that the target of starting operations in 2023 was unrealistic. Amid Makihara's allegations, news agency ANI, citing Indian government sources, reported that the discussions between India and Japan on the Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed train were progressing well. In fact, India's bullet train project has recently crossed several construction milestones. This is what ANI has tweeted. But the tweet by Mr. Makihara clearly feels, and there are a lot of information in the public domain, that apparently instead of using the Shinkansen technology, India is diverging towards the European signaling system.
We have seen the post that you are referring to. It is an individual opinion and at considerable variance with facts. India-Japan discussions on Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed train are in fact progressing well. Japan will provide E20 train series, but only in early 2030s. The train in question is still under development. Meanwhile, construction work has rapidly progressed. First section will be opened in 2027 itself. Therefore, both sides agreed to start the operations with Indian high-speed train. The signaling equipment has been ordered accordingly and is in line with international specifications. No Japanese offer was received in this context. The project execution is in line with the common goal of starting the high-speed train project at the earliest.
Now, what has gone wrong? What does this tweet indicate? Is it an embarrassment for India? How could Japan react? All these are big questions. And what about the safety aspect? Japanese signaling systems are supposed to be one of the safest signaling systems in the world. And if you look at any country which has adopted this Japanese technology, there have been zero fatalities. At least that's what I have read in whatever research I have done. And that's what the figures show. So is the Indian government trying to compromise? There are many tweets on the social media after Mr. Makihara's tweet came, and they said that India is trying to adopt a pragmatic approach by adopting a European signaling system rather than adopting Japanese technology, which has a high cost. So is it a pragmatic approach? All this we'll try and find answers to this. Joining me this evening is a very special guest, Sudhanshu Mani. He's an Indian innovator, railway engineer, and he's known to be a leader in the development of Vande Bharat express trains. In fact, that's the first indigenous semi-high-speed train. And Mr. Mani has also been a general manager of Indian Railways Integral Coach Factory in Chennai. Thank you so much, Mr. Mani, for joining. It's a pleasure having you on the program, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Mr. Mani, what does Mr. Makihara's tweet indicate? Obviously, he's not happy. There has been an opinion piece also which has led to a lot of speculation. So, and what Mr. Makihara says that Shinkansen technology has failed between India and Japan. What does that mean, really?
Okay, so first of all, these days of social media, I do hope that this post, the genuineness of this post has been verified by you. So I'm assuming it is genuine. Assuming that it is genuine, yes, it shows a lot of frustration. Let's go back a little bit about the history of how the high-speed train was introduced, the concept, and how it took off. It's been talked about for a long time, for decades. And Mr. Modi, when he took over, was very keen. And he was instrumental in arranging this JICA loan, which was at that stage claimed to be interest-free. Now, what future did tell us is there is nothing like an interest-free loan. We should have realized that. Okay, it's a very low interest and so on, but no country, even we don't give interest-free loans to other countries against Indian line of credit. We should have realized that when it came to something else like rolling stock or signaling, the price of Japanese technology is going to be higher than anything else in the world. We should have known that. Anyway, so the progress was Tardy, primarily because of some land acquisition issues in Maharashtra when Uddhav government was there and so on. That is a thing of the past. There have been other hitches like two big tunneling machines which were to come from China. They got delayed because China stopped them. There have been very great delays. So 2023 was perhaps possible, but delays took place. And when it comes to signaling and rolling stock, so the Japanese offer was found to be exorbitant, which we should have realized. Now, you just said that it's very safe. Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean that other signaling systems are not safe. Nevertheless, we could not negotiate. Now, what happened between the Japanese and Indian delegation is something I don't know. But I'm sure there were promises kept from this side were not kept and so on. And that's why this frustration. What happened is that the signaling order was placed on Siemens, which is a European system, at a price lower than much lower than what the Japanese had offered. That's one. But even more serious is the issue of rolling stock. They again asked for very high price for their rolling stock, for their trains. So initially, our reaction was somehow to negotiate, and then we threatened them. In a way, I'm saying threatening because they said that if you don't reduce the price, we will make our own train. Now, at this stage, what's happening is on a 320 kilometers per hour, or rather 350 for testing, infrastructure, India is developing its own train which will run at 250 kilometers per hour, which itself is a wastage because your infrastructure has been made for 350 kilometers per hour and you're going to run trains at 250 because that's about the capability of Indian side. What I don't like personally is that this has happened on a rebound because we could not negotiate with the Japanese. This should have happened organically because we had reached 180, we should have tried 220, 250. But at the same time, your project is based on Japanese technology. Whatever be the price, you have to negotiate and get a Japanese train to begin with. You can develop your
feel
own.
that that's where, so is that a loophole? And that's where the government, it seems, is wrong because if they thought that they will have a Japanese technology train, then obviously the signaling system also should be Japanese. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. There are examples where Japanese train, I believe it's Taiwan is one. No, ideally, yes. Ideally, it should be a Japanese technology signaling and trains.
Right.
Even if it's not Japanese technology, it's a Siemens technology. It's still possible to get Japanese trains. And I will not get into the issue of the price because price has been, as I said, is very exorbitant. But we have no option. We have gone for Japanese technology. We should have got Japanese trains to begin with. Run trains at 320 kilometers per hour, which was the intention. Keep trying our indigenous ones, which at one stage, maybe 5 years, 7 years from now, may reach 350, 320, and we may deploy them. Right. So what's going to happen at this stage is that negotiations have failed and we will not have a Japanese train. That's what it looks like. And this tweet tells us that even after the PM's visit, Japanese PM's visit, which has not been resolved.
It hasn't worked, yes. And also, I would like to draw your attention to this Japanese expert who's written an editorial in a news website called Newsdrum. And that's very important because he raises a number of questions about the bidding, the policy shifts. And I want to talk to you about all that one by one. And I'll just read that out for your perspective. A senior Japanese railway engineer has claimed that India's first bullet train project has gradually drifted from its original Shinkansen blueprint, raising concerns over signaling safety, procurement practices, and policy shifts that he believes could permanently sideline Japanese high-speed rail technology in the country. Now, this engineer's name is Izao Sugimura. He's a professional mechanical engineer and a metro vehicle consultant who's based in Delhi. He made the observations in an opinion article which was published in Yahoo News Japan, where he analyzed the current status of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project and criticized both India policy decisions and Japan's diplomatic response. Now, I'm not getting into the details when this project was launched because Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Prime Minister Modi, they jointly laid the foundation stone in 2017.
Right.
But what has been pointed out, and as a concern, Tajimura has argued, this engineer, he has argued that the biggest concern is India's decision to move away from Japan's DSATC signaling system in favor of the European Train Control Level 2, that is
Yes.
ETCS L2. That's what he's pointed out. And then he says that signaling is the foundation of high speed rail safety, and that the Shinkansen's record of over 6 decades without a passenger fatality caused by operational failure is closely tied to its integrated signaling technology. And
Yeah.
I want to talk to you, sir, about this. That does it look prima facie that has the Indian government compromised with the passenger safety, has gone ahead with a European signaling system, which apparently might not be safe when you compare it with the Japanese signaling system?
So ideally, it is our first high-speed train project, and we would have, since we have a Japanese loan, we went to the with the Japanese. Ideally, we should have had a Japanese signaling system and Japanese trains, and our own indigenous train under development. I will not say that it will compromise safety because the European system is also safe. Maybe the Japanese system has a better safety record, that you can say. But ideally, that should have happened, that we got Japanese technology. But uh, compromising safety would be too strong to say. It will make it harder, and it will make so much more work to make sure that whichever trains we get, and with the signaling system, and largely in civil infrastructure and OHEL Japanese technology, all these are integrated well. It's not an ideal beginning. This is what I would say. I'll not go as far as to say that it would compromise safety.
No, but do you feel that this is a big embarrassment? Because I was just reading Pawan Khera, what he has written. He says that this is a big shame. And ex-Japan minister blames India for the bullet train. And this is what Pawan Khera has written. And he's basically blamed the Indian government for this, that, why this shift? And he's raised fingers. So do you think that this is a big embarrassment for India after making all the promises? And especially if you read between the lines into what Mr. Makihara has written, that, the top guy, if he was so evasive, he was not looking so involved, then you can imagine. And then he points attentions towards the other things. So what does it go to show, really, if you look at the big picture?
Yeah. Yeah. So without going into personalities, I would say this much, that what this tweet says is something in a different language I have been saying for last 3 years. That, yes, that you have gone with the Japanese. You should have known that they would be expensive. You should have been prepared for that. You were not. And then you abandoned them. You should have negotiated with the goodwill of the Prime Minister. You should have negotiated a better price. I'm not saying that you should have taken at that exorbitant price. But apparently you failed to do that. And as a rebound, you said we will make our own train, which is a suboptimal solution.
Sorry to interrupt you, but in 2017 and 18, when this project took off, the railway minister was Mr. Piyush Goyal, and he's the top guy about whom Mr. Makihara is talking about. Yes, sir.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
So as I said, I won't go into the personalities, but yes, I do think it's an embarrassment, and it spoils the relationship between the two countries. What goes on inside is not something I'm privy to, but ideally, I keep saying it should have been a Japanese train with Japanese signaling and Japanese technology, with simultaneous development of our own technology.
No, but
apparently. Yeah.
No, but Mr. Mani, would you call this a pragmatic approach? Because I was seeing a number of tweets on the social media which say that, and they are insisting on one line, that is, they keep pushing their own self-interest. And this is what is being underlined by all the bhakts and the supporters, that, look, it is for India's interest that we are trying to change and diverge to something else, a European signaling system. Would you call this a pragmatic approach, that leave aside the Japanese technology and adopt a European signaling system?
So, well, in any negotiation, if there are two sides and rather two countries, they would look after their own interest. I don't know what they mean by self-interest here, but it's obvious that India would look after India's interest and Japan would look after
No, but
Japan's
if it is a
interest.
pragmatic approach, you're saying that yes,
No, 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 no. I didn't say. I don't think so. As I said, it should have ideally been negotiated with a Japanese train and Japanese signaling. After all, we were the ones who claimed that we have got a wonderful loan and there's no interest in this friendship between Japan and India and so on. So what happened? I mean, you could not negotiate at all the price of a train, the price of signaling.
Oh,
So
if you remember when Takaichi, the Japanese prime minister, when she was in India, Prime Minister Modi, made no bones about the fact that she's my almost like my sister, and that kind of a camaraderie which was seen in the optics, which was playing out when the Japanese prime minister was here. And then you see this tweet by Mr. Makihara, and I'm just underlining a few things which very clearly in this tweet says, and I'm going to use those sentences. First thing which stands out, and what he says is recklessness of the Indian side. And I would ask you one by one to elaborate on this, what Mr. Makihara, according to you, means. He says recklessness of the Indian side. What do you think is he trying to convey with this?
So I don't know what happened inside. So, but I can say what he's trying to say, that the Indian negotiators were not serious, we had their preconceived notions and perhaps were not willing to look at the Japanese point of view. That's what he's saying. I can only tell you, as I keep saying, the end result is that we are not able to get the Japanese trains, which would have been the ideal solution.
Right. So the first sentence which I read out to you was recklessness of the Indian side. You have explained that, what it could mean. Second sentence which he writes, and I'm going to underline it again. He says, they just don't keep promises. Now, there are many promises on which Modi government has failed. I'm not getting into that on the domestic front. But when a foreign country's minister or an ex-minister says that India doesn't keep up on its promises, what does it mean? What does it make India look like at the end of the day?
Well, you see, it is, after all, a post from one side. So I don't know what response India is going to give. I have told you my reading of the situation overall.
There is no response so far, except for the opposition, which is now gunning at the government on this, that this is a huge embarrassment.
Okay. So I would think that some response should be forthcoming, but nevertheless, I can tell you the overall situation of my impression, not knowing what went inside those negotiating rooms. I would not like to comment on that, but end result, the upshot has not been good. That I've been saying, it is embarrassing.
Right. So when Mr. Makihara says that they just don't keep promises, then he further says, if they make a promise, they flip it right away. If they make a promise, they flip it right away. What does that mean?
I mean, it's all in the same thing that you keep asking. Basically, he's unhappy with Indians not being straightforward in the negotiation. That's what it means to my mind. I mean, you say one thing today, you say something else tomorrow. That's his version. And that negotiations didn't work out. We know that. So I'll not go beyond that. But
no, and also the last most stark line which he says
that I know something about.
Charge was awful. Minister in charge was awful, and the minister at that time in 2017 and 18 was India's Railways Minister Piyush Goyal. So what does that go to show? That apparently he didn't negotiate properly?
I mean, first of all, people would perhaps not go into so much detail like you have done. That is he talking about 17, 18, or is he talking about last 3-4 years?
People have gone ahead and researched. So in 2017 and 18, when this project was jointly, when the foundation was laid, at that time Piyush Goyal was the railway minister.
No, but how do we know he's talking about that time and not the last 3-4 years? Yeah, so it will be very difficult to make a judgment on who he is talking about. So let's not go into that. Okay. I don't know which minister he's talking about.
Okay. So
because you see, there was COVID, and after COVID, there was some during COVID progress obviously stopped, and the negotiation for the signaling and trains have started only in last 3-4 years. So, right. So So we are not clear which minister he's
No,
talking
but
about.
would you say that there is desperation on the Japanese side, and maybe which is why the ex-minister chose to write a tweet like that?
Obviously, if at least the frustration of somebody who was in a position of power at that time, he may not be there now. It does show the frustration. They are also not totally blameless. You see, after all, the prices they offered were actually very high. Let's keep that in mind. My point of view is that, okay, they gave a very soft loan and now they are trying to make money for the country through the trains and signaling. Now it's your job to sit with them and work out a solution. So I will speak from our point of view. We did not really do that. That's a
No, so
failure and embarrassment for
you are
us.
saying that the ministers or the Indian side should have gone ahead, should have negotiated with the
Yes.
Japanese side, which they were not able to do.
Yes. I do. I'm, without knowing full facts of what happened inside, I do feel that they should have been done.
Right.
Negotiation, I keep saying, because I also keep saying that the price that they offered was very high compared to the international standard.
Right.
But we had no option. Having gone for that loan, having hyped it, we had to negotiate with them.
Right. No, but this engineer who wrote an article, sir, he also criticizes the procurement process. And he says that negotiations over Japanese trains stalled because India preferred international competitive bidding, while only two Japanese manufacturers could supply the E5 series Shinkansen originally planned for the corridor. What would you say to this, sir?
Yeah, so you go for a particular technology. So you have a certain size of apple, a green apple, which you have to run on in that technology. If you call bids for that apple, only those two companies would compete. They had already given their price, which was high. But it's not as if that you cannot run other trains on this system. Ideally, it should have been Japanese. So I will not really go into the procurement system
No,
as
but do
such
you
because
think that it is the Make in India project which was in mind, and which is why the Indian government chose
no,
to divert
no,
to
had it,
the
no, had it,
yes.
no. But even with European signaling system, it doesn't make in India, first of all. And number two, for trains also, you have gone for an indigenous train at 250, which is an admirable step. But it has happened on rebound because the negotiations failed. You should have planned it 6, 7 years back after Vande Bharat.
But
You
you
have
can sir,
done it.
correct me. You can correct me if I'm wrong. In fact, this gentleman, Mr. Sujimura, he has written that the initial roadmap envisaged Japanese trains operating first, followed by technology transfer under the Make in India project to localize production. Then he
That's right.
says, however, following the rapid expansion of the semi high speed Vande Bharat Express, India shifted towards developing indigenous high speed trains. Now, then Sujimura is claiming that the proposed Indian made B-28 train, expected to be used during the first phase of operations, reflects this policy shift. So, all of a sudden, the government decided to do a policy shift without informing the people, without informing the Japanese side, and all of a sudden, there's an article which creates so much of confusion and hangama.
Had it actually been because of the policy shift, I would be a very happy man because, I was associated with semi high speed train. I
Right.
would have thought that semi high speed to 220, 240 kilometers per hour train is a natural step and government has taken the right step. But it did not happen as a natural organic step. It has happened only last 3 years after negotiations failed on a rebound. So this post says that it happened because of that, because that's the color given to it. My understanding is this has happened only because it became impossible to get Japanese train because negotiations failed. So, which doesn't make it that attractive to me. It would have been much more attractive had we decided earlier we will get Japanese trains, maybe only 2 trains, 4 trains, 6 trains, 10 trains. Simultaneously, we are trying to develop our own. And at one day we'll run that. That would have been a very happy thing for me.
Absolutely.
But it has happened on the rebound. But nevertheless, now that it's happening, I'm looking forward to this train, which is let's say, the next step forward after Vande Bharat, and it succeed is what I'm hoping at this stage.
My last question to you, Mr. Mani, is that now with the kind of relationship India has with Japan, and not just this train technology, but for a number of other things, India depends a lot on Japan. Is this post going to create a rift between India and Japan? Is it going to have a geopolitical impact?
Well, it will have some impact, and that's why I said some response. I'm sure the government is mulling over some response. Some response has to come because yes, it's not just high-speed train. There is a friendship. There is an axis in which Japan is a part, and India and Japan both, and let's say India more today in the political situation. India cannot afford to alienate Japan. So it will have an impact, and we should wait for a suitable response.
Absolutely. I hope there is a response from the MEA on this, and maybe they do some kind of a damage control. We'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Mr. Mani, for joining
My
on
pleasure.
H.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Right.